Hello everybody, Lisa here. Welcome back to my channel and welcome to This or That. So this is a fun series I like to do where I sort of pit decks against each other in my collection. I ask the community which you would pick if you had to pick between the two decks, and then I'm going to pick between the two decks. Just so you know, sometimes I end up keeping both, sometimes I end up ditching both, sometimes one stays and one goes, but the overall premise is to see if the two decks can both coexist in my collection or if only one is going to sort of fit the bill. So these are often decks that for whatever reason I feel fill the same space in my collection. That's not always because they're aesthetically similar or even thematically similar. Sometimes it's just the job that they do. It really can vary, but with that said, we're gonna get into it. The first face-off we're going to have today is between the Practical Magic Oracle by Siren Keneally with artwork by Selena Fenech versus the Witchlings deck and book set by Paulina Cassidy, otherwise known as Paulina Faye. This is a US Games. These are both mass market decks. This is Blue Angel. This is US Games. All right, I'm going to pop the poll up so y'all can see how the community voted. This one was pretty close. There was 444 votes, so a lot of you participated in this first poll. In fact, that's actually pretty good. That's really good. Thanks for participating. I really appreciate that. And I think that for this particular pairing, these decks are both sort of spell work or magical practice-based decks, which is why I have them facing off. Now, let's get into this. Just a reminder, by the way, if you're really curious about the community's opinions about these face-offs, make sure you check my community tab because the polls will be there, but so will everybody's comments. So make sure and check that out if you're curious what people's thoughts were on this particular face-off. Now, this one is the newest to my collection. This came in a Page of Cups Witch's Moon subscription box, and this one I've had for a long time. So let's talk about it. This is the Witchlings deck and book set, and the reason I paired these two decks against each other, like I said, is because they both have a magical practice theme. And I think they may fill the same space in my collection. Now, the Witchlings deck has these really sweet witchy characters, and then it has the theme of the magical work at the top, so like prosperity, and then there's a little message: know that you deserve all things wondrous and believe you can have them. So that's what you get on the cards. And then there's this adorable little book of spells. I've talked really positively about this deck for years. So for example, let's go to Prosperity. One of the reasons I recommend this deck so often is because the spells, if you're curious about doing spell work, this one is so accessible. There's simple spells. You don't need a lot of specific ingredients necessarily. And there's always, for every theme, there's always at least one spell that requires nothing but yourself, like a meditation or some kind of like standing in the shower, something like that. So here for Prosperity, you have information about this main character. There's like a little poem. So it says, Ambrosia has a philosophy for accomplishing whatever she tries. It's realistic goals that make prosper the healthy, the wealthy, and the wise. So a really cute little like sort of, you could call that like a, like, what am I trying to say? And words of power. Like, why can't I think of the words? Like a little charm. Then you have for the spell work, Summoning Prosperity, which you just need a green candle, a peppermint oil, and a tiger's eye stone. So that one you need some specific things. But then you have a money sachet, which is a length of ribbon, a silver coin, dried basil, dried mint, and a square of fabric, green fabric. Then you have an even simpler one, a healthy houseplant, a coin, a pinch of dried basil, a prosperity bath, ginger root, cinnamon, fresh basil, and cheesecloth. So these ones, watch, this one made a liar of me. I thought there was always at least one that doesn't really require much, but you can easily modify these. They're very simple spells to do. It's just a really accessible little spell deck. And Paulina's artwork is darling. This is what the backings look like. I don't know that I'll be able to part with it, but we shall see. This one came into my collection and is newer and is a lot meatier. So let's take a look at it together. This one has a much more like digital style art versus Paulina's more hand-drawn style. This book though, can we just for a second talk about this book? We will for a minute. The cards, it does come with a card stand, but the card stand's kind of terrible. Let me just show you what I mean. So you put the card stand down, we'll put it this direction, and you put a card in it, and the card goes like really, really far back. See how far back it goes? Like that's not really what you want in a card stand. And I think if you do it the other way, yeah, it does it too. See? So it doesn't actually work. The slot is too thick, or too wide rather, so the card just falls back too much. But anyways, same kind of idea here. So we have Ground Yourself, Lady of Earth, New Beginnings, Lady of Air. Feel Your Emotions, Lady of Water. Step Up, Lady of Fire. Lunar Strength, Lunar Magic. Solar Strength, Solar Magic. I just realized this would have been so great to incorporate into, or this one, into my monthly envelope readings, but in the full moon one. That would be really cool. Or it might be a good one for the new moon. Anyway, so that is the premise. You have, these are all still in order, or they're back in order. I can't remember. But these are really lovely. They're on that really beautiful, luscious Blue Angel cardstock. So you get these sort of magical themes. But then for this one, in this massive witchy book, you get, so for example, let's take just a look at the first card, Ground Yourself, and see what you get here. So in Ground Yourself, it's very much a similar idea. It's just bigger. So you have Harness the Energy of Crystals and Stones, which is just a basic sort of information on how you can work with stones as to ground. Connecting with nature, connecting with earth, a meditation for connecting with the magic of earth. Oh, and then that's it. So there's a whole bunch of ideas here, moving your body, etc., etc. Let's take a look at one a little further down in the stack. Let's take a look at Face Your Fear, which is here. Passion and Power. Let's take a look at that one. So that's card 23. Oh, it makes sense that grounding wouldn't have a lot of spell work because that's kind of spell work prep in a way. But let's just see. Yeah, Face Your Fear, Passion and Power. So you have another sort of heads up about what this kind of magic is all about. So this section here, Practical Magic Leap Right In, is just about jumping in and, you know, working with your fear that way. There's some information here on herbs for courage, crystals for courage. And then there's a specific goddess. There's other goddesses and gods you could work with. There's also Consider the Alternative, Embrace What You're Afraid of, Name Your Fear and Break Your Habit. Just do it. Okay, actually, when I first paired these, I really thought this was going to be more like a more comprehensive version of this, where you have themes and then you have spells. This actually feels more like a general sort of witchy primer in a way, but sort of organized according to various themes. And while there is some spells, it's more like, here's different ways to work with these different types of energy. Here's how to ground. Here's how to work, you know, how to have more patience. Yes, there's a spell for patience. But actually, now that I'm looking at this, as much as I was impressed by just how beefy the book was, I was like, oh man, this is like just a bigger, more expanded version of this. I'm realizing looking at it that actually it's not. So I think in this case, I'm going to keep Witchlings and I'm going to let go of Practical Magic. I don't think I need as beautiful as these cards are, they're really beautiful. I just don't think I'll work with them as an Oracle deck. They're very specific. But they are, look at this, Let the Past Die. That's so beautiful. Look at that. These are really gorgeous. Or I may consider Seek Balance, Focus on Friendship. Let me think about this for a second, actually. Let me put this book aside. Let me just think about this deck from the premise of, let's say it was, I was doing a self-care reading and I wanted to get a card draw to help me focus on something that would be helpful with regards to my self-care. So let me just do that. Let me just take this at face value for a second. So let's see. Let's do a couple more shuffles. I don't anticipate spending this much time on every deck pairing, but this one just really threw me for a loop. Okay. Take Action, Valiance. Okay. What about Connect with the Land? Gift of Solitude. Embody Forgiveness. Transform. I mean, these cards are really beautiful. I mean, really, it's a beautiful set. I just feel like Rest and Restore. See, some of these are really good. Rewild Your Life. Yes. Inner Wisdom. Be Kind. I mean, it's beautiful. I think Embrace Your Shadow, Light and Dark, yes. Oh, Light and Dark, and this one says Dark in parentheses. So there's different shadow work cards. I don't know. I feel like I'm not going to use the book. I'm trying to ask myself, do I have other decks that are just as beautiful that do this kind of work? And the first thing I'm thinking of, just to kind of go off script for a minute, the first thing I'm thinking of is actually the Lantern Oracle. So let me just grab that off my Oracle shelf here. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So if I'm comparing these two, which I didn't, obviously, in the original face-off, I feel like when it comes to this kind of work, Lantern Oracle does such a more incredible job of not only giving me just really gorgeous artwork. Like, of the two, oh, I love her. She's beautiful. But of the two, this artwork just feels more rich and more full of depth, I suppose. And both are stunning, though, to be honest. And they're both Blue Angels. They're both beautiful cardstock. But I like the themes in the Lantern Oracle better. And I think that if I want to reach for a deck like this, I want to think of the Lantern Oracle more than I think of this one. So that makes my decision a lot easier. I'm going to go ahead and let go of, I'm going to put Lantern Oracle away. Okay, I'm going to let go of this Practical Magic Oracle. I was really impressed by it when it came in, I have to admit. And I do think it's a beautiful, beautiful set. I think this would be a really wonderful one to give. I wish I could turn it this way so it wouldn't move around so much, but I think this would be a wonderful deck to give a witchy beginner, somebody who wants to get started with a witchy practice, is curious, wants to explore some basic premises. I think it's just a really lovely, premium, nice set to give somebody. I just think that Witchlings is more practical. As I throw the deck, Witchlings is more practical for my practice and where I'm at with it. So I will keep Witchlings. I will let go of Practical Magic. Why was that so hard? Okay, hopefully the next ones are not as hard. Okay, this next pairing is the Majestic Earth Tarot. Let me take this out of its box. Oh my gosh. Or out of its bag, rather. The Majestic Earth versus the Walking Meditation Tarot. Let me pop up the poll. So 477 votes. Y'all were invested in this one, let me tell you. 80% of you chose the Majestic Earth Tarot and only 20% chose the Walking Meditation Tarot. Now, with that being said, there is a few caveats here. Majestic Earth is out of print, and Walking Meditation Tarot, these decks have a similar vibe. Basically, they both sort of bring you into the natural world in a different way. Both are really effective, and I really enjoy the aesthetics of both, and they are different, but it's important to point out that the Majestic Earth Tarot is out of print. I'm not sure that it will come back into print at any point, so it can be difficult to get and quite pricey. I do think Walking Meditation, as well as I believe it's Naturescapes Tarot, makes a good substitute if you can't get a hold of this. Do I think this is worth the out-of-print price? It's hard to say. I do really enjoy working with it. The Majestic Earth Tarot is made up of curated art, landscape paintings that have been assigned to the tarot, and they're actually just really immersive and really beautiful. I really enjoy the keywords. Some people feel the exact opposite though, and they don't like the keywords. I love the keywords. I love how it feels immersed in literally the majesty of nature. I prefer that this is paintings rather than photographs. It feels more immersive for me that way, which is an odd thing to say. You would think that photos would feel more immersive, but there's something about the fact that this is paintings. But it's also not devoid of people, which is an interesting point. People are in this deck. In fact, most of the cards have people somewhere if you look closely. For example, here in the Four of Water, we see this beautiful landscape, but here's our person right there in the corner of the card. So if you're looking for that people-y scene to sort of read with when you're doing readings, it's there for you. Whereas in Walking Meditation Tarot, which I'll show you in a moment, it is devoid of people, right? So this is really just an incredible deck, in my opinion. I am partial to it, so this isn't an entirely fair comparison, but as much as I love Walking Meditation, the times when I've wanted to reach for this, I've found myself reaching for this instead. But I really do enjoy both of these decks. So let me take a look at Walking Meditation, or show you so you can see what I'm talking about here. So this is by Danielle Norman. She's got several cool decks out there. Decks like the Astral Mermaid Tarot. This actually comes with 2 guidebooks, which I do want to talk about because I think this could be a really important point for a lot of you. But with this one, look at this edging, and those are the backs. This one is very seasonal. Again, it's immersive. It's just immersive in a different way. I love this High Priestess card with the 2 trees. The majors here are especially beautiful, and you can see mine's still in order. That's actually very telling because a lot of times if the deck is still in order, I'm not one to put them back in order unless I'm about to film a video for them. So either I put it back in order to film a video at one point and just forgot or didn't get around to it, or I have not shuffled it and actually really put it through its paces. But every time I wanted to reach for this, like I said, I just kept reaching for Majestic Earth instead. But as far as beautiful immersive decks that still bring in the Rider-Waite-Smith, this one is quite lovely. It's very tranquil to look at and to spend time in, but you get that seasonal energy. You can see that the swords are very much in winter. The pentacles are very much in autumn, right? These are some Sundog and Moontog are bonus cards. Oh, some of my cards are mixed up here, actually. There's the rest of my majors. Wands are in summer. And cups are spring, I believe. Yeah, it looks like spring to me. Look at that freaking 3 of cups. It's so pretty. So yeah, it's not fully in order. I must have done something with it. Started to shuffle it or just been showing it in a video, moving cards around. Let's just give it a shuffle. It's a beautiful deck. I just don't think it's getting the love in my collection. And that's partly because, like I said, I'm much more bonded with Majestic Earth. I've had it a lot longer. But look at how just lovely. This would be such a gorgeous deck to connect you with nature, especially if you're really feeling cut off from it, or you're in the city, or you're on vacation, you're away from, you know, your own land and you want to just connect with it. I think it's really beautiful for that. The guidebook is succinct, but has the messages you need to work with the cards. But then you get a second little booklet, and this is a guidebook to walking meditation. So it's a little pocket book all about different kinds of walking meditations you can do. There's information here on a cord cutting walk. There's information on a soul walk or an affirmation walk, different kinds of walking, meet an upper dimensional self walk. Crystals for walking, how crystals work. So there's a really cool little guidebook just on getting into the idea of walking meditation. And that is the theme of this deck, is walking meditations. It reminds me a lot of the, and in the premise, to the deck, it's an oracle deck, a deck of wonder walking. That one also has a similar kind of idea. So if that's something that's in your practice, or you're drawn to that idea, this one's going to be a really beautiful one. And like I said, you can get your hands on this. You cannot get your hands on this, at least easily. So for me, I'm going to stick with my Majestic Earth Tarot, but I do think I will let go of my Walking Meditation Tarot, as beautiful as it is. So keeping that and letting this one go. Okay, I think my next couple are more like outside of the usual in my practice. So outside of Tarot and Oracle, even outside of Lenormand, actually, now that I think about it, kind of. The next pairing is the Siren Song Lenormand versus the Rainbow Kipper. Sorry, this is the Siren Song Lenormand and Kipper versus the Rainbow Kipper. I got both of these because of my fascination with Kipper, which is why I'm putting them side by side. But let's take a look at the polls. So overwhelmingly, it was 71% out of 335 votes. It was 71% for the Siren Song and 29% for the Rainbow Kipper. Now, this is the more recent release, so I do think it's fresher in people's minds. Let me talk about these. In fairness, and this is going to be a really important point to make in full transparency, I have not learned Kipper yet. I would like to learn Kipper. I have a fascination with Kipper. I think that it's a really cool system. This one was sent to me for review. This one was purchased with my own money, if that matters to any of you. But here's the cool thing, and here's why I think the Siren Song is going to really capture a lot of people's attention. The Siren Song has a really nice big full-color guidebook. This one is published by Wiser Books, and Rainbow Kipper is published by Schiffer Red Feather. There we go. Okay. Now, the Siren Song is by Carrie Paris, Tony Savory, and Tina Hart. Now, Tony Poole and Tony Savory are the same person. I believe Tony Savory is Tony's name now. So I think there was a name change. But Tony's in both of these. And that matters to me because I really, really, really respect Tony as a Kipper expert. She's somebody that I personally go to for Kipper information. And if I really wanted to dive deep, like I plan to look at Tony's resources. So Tony as a Kipper person, totally my go-to. But Carrie Paris is an incredible artist, and so is Stephen Bright, but their art style is very different. So let's take a look at this. The other important thing to note is that the Siren Song comes with 2 decks, which does make it trickier. So let's pull these out. The tray situation here is kind of strange, but it works. So you have an L on the back of the Lenormand deck and a K on the back of the Kipper deck. And this has got a really interesting vibe to it. So we have the Siren Song. It's like this kind of mermaidy, octopi, but vintage sort of collage. And I thought this was really cool. This is the Kipper deck. Good lady, letter, false person, change. It's got like a Victorian. Is that Victorian? I don't know, y'all. Kind of seems like Victorian to me. Sort of vibe. Really cool. But if I'm being honest with myself, this is not my personal aesthetic. I don't tend to go to a lot of this kind of thing in my practice. I tend to lean towards more modern decks if given a choice between something like this and something like that. I do enjoy these decks with this kind of Victorian vibe, but they're, again, not my go-to. So that's already going to be a bit of a thing for me. I'm not a fan of this cardstock. I'll have to check and see if the Red Feather one is any bigger, or better rather, but this one feels kind of I don't know, it feels kind of warpy. Like it doesn't, you can kind of see, it's kind of doing that thing that like Hay House decks do, where it kind of like just warps really, really super easily. It's not a very nice cardstock, so it's not aesthetically very pleasant for me to work with, but I love the artwork is so different and so cool. This, like, every time I look at this deck, you know who I think of is Danny. I think of Danny. And then the Lenormand is the same, and it matches the same aesthetic, right? It is, I will say, this artwork runs a little bit more cluttered isn't fair because it's not cluttered, but for Lenormand, it's got a lot of decoration around the cards. And I actually prefer Lenormand decks that are much simpler in how they're illustrated. It just makes it easier for me to sort of focus on what I'm looking at. So there's that too. It is really cool that you can compare them. And Tony did a really cool workshop during the World Divination Association, one of their conferences that I got to watch, where Tony put these two together and kind of combined them and worked with them both, which I think is super cool. A little overwhelming for me because I don't feel like I'm anywhere near being an expert in Lenormand, and I don't even know Kipper. So combining them, while it seems really cool, feels a little over my head at the moment. Guidebook, though, looks really good. Now, this one I actually purchased because I thought if I was going to learn Kipper, this was going to be the most accessible to me. I really love Stephen Bright's artwork. You'll probably recognize it right away because it's got a kind of a modern feel. It's one of the main character cards. I've got some other main character cards set aside here. This is the one I was, I think, using for myself. I think that's why it's pulled out. This cardstock does feel nicer. You can see it's a little bit thicker. It's not doing the warpy thing. These are gilded. But what I really love about this, even though I haven't worked with Kipper yet, is that this is color-coded. So you know a red card is kind of has got a meaning. The blue cards have a meaning. The kind of yellowy green cards have a meaning. So everything here, the color is going to matter and will make it easier, I think, if I'm learning Kipper, to work with the colors. That's kind of the premise with it being a rainbow. I also really like that we get what feels to me, with the silhouettes and such, you get more of the ability to sort of put yourself in every card. It feels more immersive, I guess, again, is a good word I'm going to use in that way. Like, I feel like I can just not get distracted. And also the images, as you can see, they're a lot simpler in the sense that there's not a ton of stuff going on in the cards. And the shadows of the people and their demeanor, I think, is also going to be very telling about the meaning of the card. It's going to make it really easy to know what it is I'm looking at, right? So that is the Rainbow Kipper. I also, if I remember correctly, let me pop these back in their little tray. I think if I remember correctly, I have done a little looking into this. Yeah, I have done a little looking into the guidebook. And it's literally set up so that when you pull the card, you get information about that card, but you also get what the imagery sort of is saying, and you also get placement, so what this card means based on its placement, and then also what it means as a daily advice card, its positive meanings and its negative meanings, if they have both. So the cards are grouped by color. So yellows are cause and effect cards. Blue cards are movement cards. Red cards are stop cards. Green cards are people cards. You've got your main character cards. And then, is that it? I think for colors? Yeah. And then you get, that's it. And then some information on how to read. This just feels very not overwhelming to get into as far as learning the system. This feels accessible to me. And when I'm ready to sit down and learn Kipper, this just feels like the one that I'm going to want to work with. So I think for me, I'm going to keep the Rainbow Kipper. And I'm going to let go of the Siren Song, Kipper, and Lenormand. But it's so cool. I really wanted to kind of fall in love with it. But I think it's just too much for me. And I have other Lenormand decks that I like better. So I feel like it would just end up languishing. It's so cool, though. I don't think we've seen a lot of people. I don't think we've seen anybody, especially in the mass market. Please correct me if you know of any, who have combined two different divination systems like this into a comprehensive set. It may have been done in the indie market, but I've certainly never seen it in the mass market. So that's very, very cool. So keeping Rainbow Kipper and letting go of Siren Song, Lenormand, and Kipper. All right, this next one is similar in that it's not tarot or standard oracle. I have Nellie's deck versus the Inner Eye Oracle by Stephen Bright. So this one is by Kelly Fitzgerald of The Truth and Story. This one is by Stephen Bright. Let me pop the poll up. So 316 of you voted, with 68% of you, voting for Nellie's deck and 32% for the Inner Eye Oracle. Let me talk about it. Also, I'm going to pull out this because this is going to be relevant. So all of these have a playing card emphasis, I would say. So I want to talk about that because I have multiple feelings, and this is going to have a role to play as well. So first of all, the Inner Eye Oracle is a mass market playing card divination deck by Stephen Bright. You already know I'm a fan of his work, but we have a really great little guidebook, and then we have these really cool cards. They're bigger than I thought. I was really hoping they were going to be like playing card sized, but they're a little bit bigger. Oh, this is really cool though. Sorry. As soon as I look at it, I'm like, I don't know. Okay. So, you can kind of tell where I'm probably leaning. We'll talk about that. But this has got its own system. So we have, for every card, we have a keyword on it. So this 5 of clubs is obstacles. The Queen of clubs is the leader. The 6 of hearts is commitment. The 4 of clubs is planning. 9 of clubs is official things. Okay, I really want to... The authority figure for the King of clubs. Let's get into some red cards. Stability for the 2 of diamonds. King of diamonds is the protector. Ace of hearts is love. Okay, so this is really cool. Communication, the thinker, disingenuity for the 7 of spades. Okay, here's my thing. I really like this. I wish it was poker sized. I don't know why, but when I think of playing card divination, I think of a poker sized deck. But now that I'm looking at this and getting it in my hands again, I'm like, it's so simple to read because it's right on there what it means. So let's just hold on. Okay, I'm gonna be all over the place. We're just gonna see, because I really thought I was leaning towards Nellie, and we're gonna talk about Nellie's system in a minute. But this is kind of I don't know if I can compare these. Okay, so let me just do a quick little 3-card reading. Let me think of a question. Joe wants to know what's up with his work. We have the advisor, satisfaction, and travel. Okay, let's just see what we can do with this. Okay, let me pull out. I guess we are going to just play this whole video, so it's going to be super long. It is what it is. Okay, so does this tell us what suit we're in? Kind of. No? There's these page numbers, and I was thinking it was going to tell us where we are, but it really doesn't. How are these ordered? Okay, the kings. Okay, so let's look at the advisor. An intelligent and considered man looks in your direction through spectacles. So it says, this man has mastered both his thoughts and his speech, able to draw on facts and knowledge that will be able to assist you. Is there a simple meaning here? Okay. Keywords: mastery of thoughts, impartial advice, logic, and sound judgment. So he sounds, I think this is what I ran into. He sounds kind of like the King of Swords, right? To me. Then we have the 3 of spades, which is satisfaction. So are these done by... Are these alphabetical? These might be alphabetical. Yeah, they're alphabetical, which is not what I would have expected. Okay, so the 3 of spades, satisfaction. So this says, is there keywords? No, there's no keywords, so you have to read the whole thing. It's on the nose. It's feelings of warmth and fulfillment. Okay, and then the 6 of pentacles is travel. So let's look at travel. Yeah, they're alphabetical, I guess, because people are going to be focused on the keywords rather than playing cards. So this is travel will become part of your day, or at least the opportunity to go somewhere will arise. Okay. I don't know. I feel like it doesn't feel like a system that I'm going to study and learn so much as its own thing that would be its own thing as a standalone. And I think this is why I initially paired these up. So let me talk a little bit more about Nellie's deck. This is cool. I just don't know. Okay. So Nellie's deck by Kelly. This is such a neat thing. I pre-ordered this deck. I love it so much. And I feel like it has a little piece of sea glass in the bag with it. So Nellie's deck is a playing card deck that has also got a Lenormand and tarot built into it, which is really freaking cool, if I'm being honest. So like the majors are these like key cards. So you have the majors, obviously, just like they would be in tarot. But then for the Ace of Clubs, you have both in the center, you have your sort of Lenormand or divination style, what this card could be used for. So this is a significant. And then it's also denoted here that this is in the Wands suit. So it's the Ace of Clubs, but it's also the Ace of Wands. Here we have the Ace of Diamonds. It's also the Ace of Coins or the Ace of Pentacles, but it's also in the Lenormand, a Clover card, and so forth. So this is a mashup, an ultimate mashup, I guess you could say, of playing card, tarot, and Lenormand. And I would say, to me, it feels more like a mashup between tarot and Lenormand, at least so far. But this is on beautiful cardstock. It's got this gorgeous thing. But here's the thing about this. Both of these systems, both of these decks are systems that I feel like I would really need to spend time with and intimately get to know. So Nellie's deck is one that I really want to study and spend time with. And along with that, there is this journal. And I got it, again, in the pre-order, so there's some extra little bits and stuff tucked into the pages. But it reads like you're reading somebody's journal. There's a whole story associated with this deck. I feel like studying this is going to be, like, look at, she made it, designed it to look like an actual journal, which is so cool. And then there's little things, like little letters and things that you can pull out and work with. I don't know that she's doing this anymore. This was a pre-order thing that she did. But in any case, regardless, you've got all the things you need to read the deck in these, like, journal entries and things. Here's the thing. I know Kelly's system is going to have so much to it, and I'm really excited to study this and get to know this. And I have begun to read it a bit, but I really want to read this book kind of cover to cover, learn the entire story, and then get to know the cards and learn the system. And I'm very invested in this particular process. This is something that I've had set aside to treat myself to study for a long time. And I think because of that, I'm motivated to learn this. And then once I learn this particular little system, I think this one is just another type of mashup type of system. But this one has that overlay of tarot. And I don't know, I feel like it's probably a better fit for me if I'm going to get a unique divination system like this. One that's kind of homemade, homegrown. This is obviously very safe in my collection. It's not going anywhere. The other thing to mention, though, and this is why I pulled these out, this is a little set of vintage playing cards, is because when it comes to playing card divination, when I got this, I want to say, like, within, like, maybe a couple weeks or less before I found out that Danny was going to be doing a playing card, like, teaching her method of reading playing cards in her channel membership. And I have those videos saved in a playlist. I watched the first one and a bit, I think, but again, it's a study. What I love about learning playing card divination from Danny is I really resonate with the way that Danny reads and works with cards. And I got so excited about that video that video series when she started doing it. And I bought this just really cool vintage looking set of playing cards. These are, by the way, Bicycle Vintage Classic by, I think it's actually by Fournier. No, it says United States Playing Card Company, 2021. I could have swore I got it from Fournier, but maybe not. Anyway, it's really nice linen cardstock. It's vintage. It feels like the kind of thing I would do for playing card divination. But I think what I've realized when it comes to playing cards specifically is I want to learn a playing card system, but I don't want to learn it as something that feels too similar to tarot. I want to learn it as its own thing, which I think is why with Nellie's deck, I'm seeing it more as like a Lenormand tarot mashup and less like a playing card system. Because for playing cards, I'm really focusing on wanting to learn Danny's system. So that's another study that I plan to treat myself with as I have time. I got partway in. It's so good, y'all. It's so good. I took so many notes on just the very first introduction to the suits. And that's been on my list as well to study for a while. So I feel like if I'm going to put my time and energy into these two, and I know I want to, then this is going to continue to get neglected. And as cool as it is, I think I can let it go. Now, that being said, I will say my impressions of it having pulled it out are that you could easily just pull this out and just work with it. I don't think you need to study it. I don't think you need to intimately get to know it. I think you could just shuffle, draw, look your meaning up. And in that way, I think it's a really cool, just general oracle deck. But because it's got a playing card theme, I'm not going to think of it in my brain as a playing card or as a oracle deck. I'm going to think of it as a playing card deck. And then it's going to compete with these other things. So I think this one's going to have to go for me. I think we're 1 for 1 so far. I'm just realizing I can put the playing cards up. Okay. Yeah, I think we're 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. We're 1 for 1. Okay, this next one is going to be a whole thing. Let me put it up. So we are going to be talking about the Llewellyn Celtic Dragon Tarot versus the Llewellyn Tarot of Dragons. I don't have the guidebook here, but that's not going to be super relevant for this. So I'm just going to pull this out. This has these backs. Looks like that. And I'll just pull the cards out so we're not dealing with this giant setup. All right, so this is what we're looking at. That deck versus that deck. All right, let me pop up the poll. So 322 of you voted. Of those, 55% actually went with the Tarot of Dragons and 45% went with the Celtic Dragon Tarot. And I have to admit, I was shocked. And let me tell you what I was thinking when I paired these up. Obviously, they're both dragon decks. There's nothing wrong with having multiple dragon decks, but I actually also have the Smoke, Ash, and Ember. So I want to pull this out because it's always relevant when I talk about dragon decks. So this is the Smoke, Ash, and Ember. This is an indie by Three Trees Tarot. It's kind of funny how they all have, that's so interesting. I didn't do this on purpose. Like this one is still in order. This one is not, but yet this has the Fool on top, this has the Fool on top, and this one, which we'll just stick up here, also has the Fool on top, but these two are very well shuffled. So that's just kind of a funny thing that we get to look at and compare. Okay, let me talk about my thoughts. The reason this one's not in the running is because this one is safe. I love this deck. It's adorable. It's amazing. But it is something that exists in my brain when I'm talking about and thinking about dragon decks, so it needs to be relevant to the discussion. I was trying to decide between these two, and I want to be fully transparent. I picked up the Celtic Dragon Tarot. It's a deck I've wanted to want for years and years and years, and then I found out it was going out of print. And I was like, well, dang it, now or never, right? Like, I better see if I can work with it. And I picked it up. And I have wanted to fall in love with this deck. Like, I've been invested. Like, have you ever seen a deck and been like, I will make myself love this deck because it's beautiful, I love the art, or whatever it may be. But I knew that it would compete with this one because they're both mass market dragon decks, and obviously neither was going to compete with Smoke, Ash, and Embers. Now, dragon decks are important to me partly because as much as I'm into unicorns, and kind of perceive myself through a unicorny lens, I perceive Peggy through a dragony lens. We're very fire and water. We have this kind of dichotomy in our marriage, and so dragon decks always have to have a little bit of a connection for me to Peggy. So that's just important to be clear about. But I've really loved the vibrant colors in the Tarot of Dragons. This one's got reversals mixed in. I think Peggy was the last to actually use it. But I really love the colors in this. I think it's a very well done dragons, and these are exactly the kind of dragons that I actually associate with Peggy the most. This deck, for example, feels more like Peggy than the Smoke, Ash, and Embers, as much as I love Smoke, Ash, and Embers as a deck. Really, really beautiful, vibrant colors. Now, the Celtic Dragon Tarot, you guys, I wanted to love this so bad, and I was actually getting set up to do a walkthrough, and I think I even started to record it a little, and I realized as I was going through that I don't like it. I don't like the way that the cards are depicted. It's very people-y, which actually several people pointed out in the comments. It's not solely focused on dragons the way that these other two decks are. This one's got a lot of people in it, but more than that, there's a lot of these cards, like the majors are fine. I love the majors. They're beautiful. But there's a lot of these cards, like the Hanged Man. Here's a good example. This does not show the energy of the Hanged Man as I perceive the Hanged Man. And the guidebook talks about as if this person is fell, they got stuck there. It's not like a conscious thing. It's also not a thing where they were being like caught and hung up. There's no intention here. It's kind of like an accident that you're stuck with. And I didn't like that energy in that card at all. And I already knew I was going to have some issues with, there's chains. I already knew I was going to have some issues with this deck because, oh, here's another one that I struggled with, the Star. Like, what? And then when I read the guidebook, this didn't jive with how I view the Star. And I started to realize that though this deck has been around for decades and has been wildly successful, like I think the guidebook says this is on its like 21st printing or something. Let's see. It is on its 20th printing. 2021 20th printing is the copy that I have. The guidebook did not help me out the way that I was hoping it would. Now, I knew that DJ Conway and Lisa Hunt paired up for several decks, and their decks have a very distinctly like old school Wicca vibe to them. And part of the thing that means is that they come with a change in the suit association elementally. So the wands are associated with air and the swords with fire. Now, I already know myself. I know this is usually a deal breaker for me, but I'm like, I'll get over it for cute dragons, right? But actually, I can't. I honestly just cannot. And it's not even just the elements. It's that so many of these cards do not show the energy that I'm looking for in that card. They don't depict it the way that I would typically read it. And that messes with my head. The coloration messes with my head. Like when we see all these Wandsy cards being so, in their color palette, so air, and then you get to the swords and you just see how fiery they are, it legit throws me. And I've had this issue with decks before. I should have known better, but I'm like, it's going out of print. You know that FOMO thing? That's what this was for me. This was totally a FOMO purchase. But I also don't want to be hasty because I'm not going to be able to purchase it later if I decide I really want to intimately get to know this deck. But right now, I am legitimately not feeling it at all. And the other thing that worried me, or that I noticed right away, is that the coloration of this deck, the sort of softer tones, does sort of feel like it's competing too much with the Smoke, Ash, and Ember deck, which also has softer tones, light borders. Aesthetically, I mean, it's not all soft tones, but aesthetically, the Smoke, Ash, and Ember feels energetically like what I wanted the Celtic Dragon Tarot to be. So I thought it was going to be an easy win, actually. When I put these up together, I thought, oh, I'm going to love the Celtic Dragon more because I've just wanted this deck for so many years and really thought I was going to fall in love with it. But it turns out not so much. It's really this one for me. It's really this Tarot of Dragons. And I really love the guidebook. I love the artist's perspective. The cards stay true to the way that I look at the cards. So I've never pulled one of these cards and thought that it didn't resonate with the way that I read the tarot. And that is ultimately what it is for me with decks. It has to sort of resonate, at least mostly, with my perspective. It doesn't have to be perfect. And in fact, I really like it when decks challenge my way of thinking. But if I'm scratching my head every time I pull a card or every other time, that's too much. Like, I want it to stretch my boundaries of how I think about tarot, but not be so out of the scope of the way that I look at it that I can't bond with it. And that's what I was finding with the Celtic Dragon Tarot. Whereas this one, I feel like, don't mind me, I'm just literally putting my cards right side up while we chat. This one really does just scratch all the itch for like a classic dragony tarot. I love the color palette. I love the vividness of it. It just really, really works. And I love this kind of, I don't know what you call this, like imperial style? I don't know what you call this medieval style dragons. These are my favorite. I love them. I love them so much. So very classic dragon vibes with this one, and zero complaints about it in general. Like, that's very clearly and visually a Four of Swords. And so it really, really does its job well for me. And that's what I need. So I'm not going to let go. I'm going to be putting it aside. I'm going to put the Celtic Dragon aside for probably a long, long time because it is going out of print and I don't want to be hasty. And also because in a way, it's kind of a piece of tarot history for me. When I was first learning tarot and when I was in witchy circles in the very early days, like when I was in my early 20s, it seemed like this deck was at every single like event I went to, somebody was reading with this deck. And it always felt really magical and really witchy and really just otherworldly. And so it feels like a nostalgia deck for me, but not one I'm going to want to read with. So I want to hold on to it for a while, perhaps collect it. I don't do that very often, but I may with this one because objectively it's beautiful. I love Lisa's art. DJ Conway she was an impactful author for me in the early 20s of like baby witchdom when I was like really, I don't know, just kind of finding my footing as a pagan and as a witch. And so both of these creators, I don't know, they have a special place in my heart, but this deck is just not clicking the way that I wanted it to click. So I'm letting it go, but I'm not really letting it go. You know what I mean? I'm not going to put it in a bag or hang it up on my wall or anything like that. So it's going to stay set to the side. And I'm going to continue to work with, oops, I did that wrong. This is blue, so you'd think I'd put these together, but this one feels like this red bag to me, this red dragon bag. And this one feels like the blue dragon bag to me. So Smoke, Ash, and Embers and Tarot of Dragons are going to continue to hold the reins of my dragon deck collection. I only need one of those up there so we can keep track. Okay, we're making progress. Okay, next up we have two decks that are, I'll try to explain myself, but we have the I Am the Artist Tarot by Saki Saki. And we have the Zeke's Arcana Tarot by, I forget the artist's name, I'm so sorry. These are the decks. Let's just pull these out of their containers. Like that. And let me pop up the poll. So 314 of you voted, 52% of you for Zeke's Arcana, and 48% of you for I Am the Artist, but there were passionate people on both sides for sure of this particular quandary. They're not aesthetically similar decks. I think that's clear, right? We have, can I just for a second though point out how incredible this, I don't know how this happened, but Peggy had this fabric and it's like the exact same as the back of this deck. It's the most perfect match, I think, potentially ever. Like, it's so good. Is it silly of me that I am potentially attached to this deck because of this stinking bag match? Yes. Is it still a thing? yeah. So here's the situation. This deck is the newest version of the Saki Saki Tarot where the people had no heads. It's very abstract. It feels to me like the Cool Kids deck, right? It's abstract, it's kind of funky, but it's very Rider-Waite-Smith. It's very artsy. It's wild. It's got this chaos to it that I was really drawn to at the time that I picked this up. And surprise, surprise, I was also drawn to the sort of wild chaos and weirdness of the Zeke's Arcana at the same time. But of these two, what happened was they came in around the same time. I even got the separate full book and read it like cover to cover for the I Am the Artist Tarot, and really enjoyed getting into the artist's process with this. But what I realized when these came in around the same time is that when I was craving this really unique kind of energy, every single time I was reaching for Zeke's Arcana. Every single time. So the issue I have is that this feels like a cool kid deck. Like the deck that the art kids would like gush over and everybody would love, and I'd be like, huh, I don't get it. And I do. Like, I get how cool it is. But there's something about, and people have said this, I can't remember if this is in the comments or if this is just conversations I've been part of, but people have said that there was something about the headless nature of the deck that made it special to them, which is ironic because I was one of the people that was like, I can't with the Saki Saki because the people are headless. And yet, now that there are heads, it's still such a cool deck. But what I realized is that it's like a really cool spin on an RWS clone, and that's completely okay. I love cool spins on an RWS clone, but at the end of the day, these color palettes, which is the whole point of this deck, the color is plays such a big role. The color palettes of the cards, the style of the art is actually not for me. As much as I want it to be, it's just not my vibe. Like, I love all the different, wildly different colored borders. Gosh, I mean, this is such a work of art. This is the kind of thing that I feel like is fun and enjoyable to sort of look at and contemplate, but not, it's too chaotic for me to read with. And there's a place for that energy. It just wasn't doing it for me. And I think that's the issue. There's something about this that just isn't hitting the right places in my intuition. And I feel like when I'm pulling it out to work with it, I'm forcing it. It doesn't feel natural. And that's unfortunately an issue for me and a real big bummer because this bag match though. I know that's so superficial to say, but I was so excited about this match. You just don't know. And like when you get this deck, there's some extra cards too. You get the Artist, the Observer, the Visionary, the Inner Muse. And there was this chakra color guide, which got me all excited. But then I was like, okay, if chakra colors are in here, that's going to be really cool. But unfortunately, there's so many colors that I can't really hone in on a theme on any card, really. It's not like I go, oh, this is obviously solar plexus. And Six of Cups wouldn't be a solar plexus card to me anyways. So the chakra color thing got me excited, but didn't play out the way that I wanted it to. So yeah, unfortunately, I think this one just didn't quite scratch the right itches for me, didn't quite land where I needed it to land, but this bag match, though, I can't. So that's where I ended up with the I Am the Artist Tarot. My experience, though, with the Zeke's Arcana, which also, let's be honest, has a great bag match. It's fine. But my thing with the Zeke's Arcana, look at the hot pink edges. Like, is that not, like, the shade of this bag is the same. Anyway, here's the thing. This is really weird and quirky and cool, but it's cool in a way that I get. Like, look at the troll card. It's still got the RWS clone kind of energy, but it's not chaos to me. It's cool and different and unique. And there's qualities to these cards that, as I said, they're kind of strange, but they're strange in a way that works with my intuition. Like, I look at that strangeness, like the way that this King of Cups head is split and has the fish going between. I look at that and I've got something to go with intuitively. It feels like chaos for a purpose. It doesn't feel like chaos in isolation or like it's just the artist's perspective, even though, of course, that's what it is. It feels like it's approachable. It's also got a bit of a Pippish kind of vibe, but in a really cool way that doesn't make me feel unexcited about working with the cards, right? It's still very RWS. I love the quartz so much. I had this all in order because I was going to do another video side by side with something, but let's get it shuffled because it's just, I don't know, there's something about this that just really spoke to me on some kind of level that I don't even know how to describe. So this one's definitely safe. And what I was trying to figure out is if mainly, and I think this is true, I think mainly the reason that these two sort of ended up occupying the same space in my mind is because they both came in at around the same time when I was in the same kind of mood and looking for the same kind of thing. I was looking for something unique, something that would really shake things up. They both did that, but this just ended up not being the right kind of shakeup, and this did. And that's ultimately what ended up happening, and what ended up kind of determining which one I was going to reach for more. So it ended up being Zeke's Arcana for me. I love this deck, so Zeke's is staying. And I think I Am the Artist is going to go. Now, again, when I say go, I don't think I clarified. I shouldn't say again. These are going to go in purgatory. I'm not immediately looking to rehome. I'm going to hold on to them for a bit, make sure I don't miss them, that kind of thing. If you're looking for decks that I might be rehoming, the best place to keep an eye out is the Supportive Tarot Facebook group. That's my Facebook group. And every week on Tuesdays, we have a Tarot Trade Tuesday post that people can buy, sell, trade their decks. Typically, if I'm going to let go of decks, I'm going to post them in there first. Occasionally, I will eBay things, but most of the time, it goes in the Tarot Trade Tuesday. So just keep your eyes out there. Y'all, I'm lazy about it. I only do it like maybe once or twice a year. So I used to do it more regularly. If my schedule lightens up, maybe I'll do it more regularly again. But otherwise, these are going in purgatory. They'll show up someday in a thread somewhere, I'm sure. Okay. Anyways, that brings us to our final pairing. And this is going to be tricky. This is the Divine Muses Oracle versus the Vintage Wisdom Oracle, which is mass market. Oops, pull those out. All right, let me pop up the poll. 321 of you voted. Surprisingly, 57%, surprisingly to me, I didn't expect this, 57% of you chose the Vintage Wisdom Oracle and 43% chose Divine Muses. Where to begin? Okay, let's talk about it. So these both have a vintage vibe. Now my Vintage Wisdom Oracle is modified. Divine Muses, I don't know if I can properly explain this situation. Here's my problem. Divine Muses has a thick guidebook with some really incredible messages and themes. There's something about this deck that's very, very unique and makes me want to work with it more. It kind of calls to me, I guess you could say. And vintagey type decks are not necessarily my go-to. This is also on a linen cardstock, which gives it an edge, unfortunately. Now, out of the box, can I just pull this out and just work with it? No. And that does make it tricky because I'm only going to work with it when I want to really sit down and get into the guidebook. And that's my problem with this one. This deck, I freaking love this deck. I never use it, and I don't know why. First of all, I trimmed the borders off. This is a mass market. It had big borders on it. I trimmed the borders, and then I did this gorgeous edging on it using distress inks, and I freaking love how it turned out. Like, it's so cool. I love the artwork. I love the keywords. I don't know if I just never reach for it because I don't know what to pair it with. I literally don't know. It's not as substantive as Divine Muses for me at all. And I think that might be part of it. But now I'm looking at it and I'm like, would this look cool? Like, what would I pair this with? What could I pair this with? I don't know is the answer to that question. I literally don't know. And yet it's so lovely. And as far as like being able to just put it down on a table and work with it, this one gets the point for that. But I never use it. And that's a problem. But at the same time, I've had really beautiful readings with the Divine Wisdom, or excuse me, the Divine Muses, but I have to use the guidebook. There's nothing about these cards where I'm like, oh, cool. Like, okay, Reflection's a good one. Wild Man. Okay, what does that mean? I don't know. I think actually, if I'm being honest with myself, because this whole this or that is messing with my head. Another good bag match though. This one's messing with my head a lot because I really thought I was going to pick Divine Muses. This is the indie deck. I'm pretty sure this is out of print now. I think it's really cool. It gives good readings when you work with the book. But I am not... Is that Frida Kahlo? I think it is. Or Kahlo. I'm sorry if I said that wrong. Here's the thing. I feel like this is another deck where... It's good, it's substantive, but it's not the kind of thing I get excited to sit down and pull out by itself and just sit down with the book and do a reading. And so I don't reach for it often. When I do reach for it, I have these incredible readings, and that's great. But it's the kind of thing that it feels, you know, when you're like looking for something to read and you've got this book that like, you know, is good for you or has a good message, but it's like, feels like it's going to be a little bit of work. So you don't reach for it. You reach for something fluffy or fun or scary or sexy instead, right? That's what it is for me with Divine Muses. I've realized just verbalizing it right now. Vintage Wisdom, I feel like my biggest issue is I love this deck. I just never know when to reach for it or what to pair it with. If y'all have a great pairing for Vintage Wisdom, let me know, because gosh, I would love. I have used it, I believe, with the Tarot of Delphi, and it works pretty nicely in that context. It might, I feel like I paired this also with the Moonchild Tarot, the original one with the more golden tones. But now I'm using the new Moonchild, which has more purpley tones, and I don't think it would look as nice. And I know looks don't matter. They don't for substance, but I'm more likely to use a deck if I can think of a good kind of a deck it feels at home with, and aesthetics help with that, right? So I don't think I'm ready to let this one go, and I think it's, of the two, honestly, the one I would be more likely to use. I just, for whatever reason, seem to not be reaching for it. But I'm not ready to let it go yet, even though it's mass market, easily replaced. I think it's still in print. Just not ready for it. It's even, I've had it for a long time. Like, it's in one of Peggy's bags before she started doing the decorative stitches. Like, it's a straight stitch up here, which is so wild. Like, I've had this for such a long time, and it's always been in this bag, I'm pretty sure. So Vintage Wisdom is staying. This is literally going the exact opposite of how I thought it was going to go. And I think Divine Muses, I do need to put it in Purgatory. But it's such a cool deck. It's such a cool deck. It's just not... You know what I need to do? Hold on. I need to pull out something else. I need to look at the Pear Tree Oracle. Or Pear Tree Court. This is the one by Danny Mystic. And I just need to... Why did I put the bag there? Okay. I just need to consider these two. And again, I feel like I would be more likely to reach for this because there's great keywords on it, but it's still got that vintage feel. This is the deck, the Oracle deck that Danny Mystic did out of Victorian fashion plates. I'm pretty sure you can still get this on her Make Playing Card shop. Yeah. I feel like these two sit in a similar space. And yet Danny's deck is much more approachable, whereas the Divine Muses, I have to work at, right? Like, I know what doubt is. I know what creativity is, right? Like, I can definitely work with this. And this, I can't. So, not without, like, more work. So I think I'm going to Purgatory, Divine Muses. And I'm going to, this is so funny. This bag was holding Pear Tree Court a long time ago. And then I was like, well, let me work with Divine Muses. And so I used the bag for Divine Muses because they felt like they fit in the same space, which is kind of ironic. So I'm going to put Pear Tree Court back in the bag that it was in and pull that back into my rotation. And I'm going to Purgatory, Divine Muses. Oh my gosh. Have I done 1 and 1 this whole time? And none of these went precisely the way that I thought they were going to go. Let's do a quick tally of what I am letting go of or putting into Purgatory or storing for now. So that is 7 decks that are going into storage or Purgatory. And 7 decks, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 7 decks that I'm keeping. So whittled this particular selection down by half, which I haven't had one that's been even Steven for a while, I feel like. So this is good progress. These two are really top priority for me for studying at some point. I would say Nellie is probably the highest priority because I really want to spend time getting to know this, and I just haven't had a chance yet. So very excited about that. Kipper, I'm very content to just keep this for like forever until I feel like I want to learn Kipper. And if I ever decide I don't care about Kipper, I don't want to work with Kipper, I'll let this go. But for now, it just feels like the perfect learning deck, very accessible for Kipper. Well, thank you so much for hanging out with me. I really, really appreciate you spending the time. This is a long video. I've been making a lot of long videos lately. It's just the space I'm in. So thank you for hanging out. I really appreciate it. As always, an extra big thank you goes out to my Unicorn Fam channel members. Thank you so much for supporting the channel and being part of what I do here. It really, really makes a difference. To those of you who watch and subscribe and comment and like, or just hang out here or click the video when you see it in your feed, those actions all greatly support what I do here, and I genuinely appreciate spending the time here. I would not do any of this or be doing any of this if it weren't for all of you. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And until next time, y'all, may your magic always shine from the inside out. Bye.